All right, so let's pick up where we just left off, where Nanny has just seen Janie having her first kiss with Johnny Taylor, and Nanny now believes that Janie has become a woman and tells Janie that it's time for her to get married. So let's see what happens next. Me? Married? Nah, Nanny, no ma'am. What I know about a husband? What I seen just now is plenty for me, honey. I don't want no trashy boy, no breath and britches like Johnny Taylor using your body to wipe his foot on. Nanny's words made Janie's kiss across the gatepost seem like a manure pile after a rain. Look at me, Janie. Don't sit there with your head hung down. Look at your old grandma. Her voice began snagging on the prongs of her feelings. I don't want to be talking to you like this. Fact is, I done been on my knees to my maker many times asking please for him not to make the burden too heavy for me to bear. Nanny, I didn't mean nothing bad. That's what makes me scared. You don't mean no harm. You don't even know where harm is at. I'm old now. I can't be always guiding your feet from harm and danger. I wants to see you married right away. Who am I gonna marry off like that? I don't know nobody. The Lord will provide. He know I done born to Borden in a heat of the day. Somebody done spoke to me about you long time ago. I ain't said nothing 'cause that wasn't the way I placed you. I wanted you to school out and pick up from a higher bush and a sweeter berry. But that ain't your idea, I see. Nanny, who that been asking for me? Brother Logan Killix. He's a good man too. Nah, Nanny, no man. Is that what he been hanging round here for? He looks like some old skullhead in the graveyard. The older woman sat bolt upright and put her feet to the floor and thrust back the leaves from her face. So you don't want to marry off decent like that, do you? You just wants to hug and kiss and feel around with the first one man and then another? Huh? You wants to make me suck the same sorrow your mama did, eh? My old head ain't gray enough. My back ain't bowed enough to suit you. The vision of Logan Killix was desecrating the pear tree, but Janie didn't know how to tell Nanny that. She merely hunched over and pouted at the floor. Janie? Yes, ma'am? You answer me when I speak. Don't you sit there pouting with me after all I've done and went through for you. She slapped the girl's face violently and forced her head back up so that their eyes met in struggle. With her hand uplifted for the second blow, she saw the huge tear that welled up from Janie's heart and stood in each eye. She saw the terrible agony, and the lips tightened down to hold back the cry, and desisted. Instead, she brushed back the heavy hair from Janie's face and stood there suffering and loving and weeping internally for both of them. So why is Nanny acting so harshly in this scene? Let's talk about that. So Janie doesn't want to marry Logan Killix because Logan Killix doesn't fulfill the pear tree, this awakening for love and marriage that Janie just had, this romanticized version of what she wants for her future. Logan Killix isn't who she's thinking about, but Nanny wants to marry her off anyway, and is upset when Janie isn't grateful. And so Nanny is scared that Janie's going to end up alone with a child and no money. She's scared that after she dies, Janie will be completely alone and without any way to support herself. And so Logan Killix will take care of Janie, and that's what Nanny is most concerned with. Nanny isn't concerned with love, she's concerned with Janie's safety. So let's see how this conversation continues. Come to your grandma, honey. Sit in her lap like you used to. Your Nanny won't harm a hair on your head. She don't want nobody else to do it neither if she can help it. Honey, the white man is the ruler of everything as far as I've been able to find out. Maybe it's someplace way off in the ocean where the black man is in power, but we don't know nothing but what we see. So the white man throw down the load and tell the man to pick it up. He pick it up because he have to, but he don't tote it. He hand it to his women folks. The woman is the mule of the world so far as I can see. I've been praying for it to be different with you. Lord, Lord, Lord. For a long time she sat rocking with the girl held tightly to her sunken breast. Janie's long legs dangled over one arm of the chair and the long braids of her hair swung low on the other side. Nanny half sung, half sobbed a running chant prayer over the head of the weeping girl. So let's return to our question before we keep reading. Why is Nanny acting so harshly? So life is hard for a black woman, Nanny and Janie both face racism and sexism. And because of this, Nanny has protected Janie so far from what this will mean for her future. But once Nanny dies, she won't be able to protect Janie from the racism and sexism that exists during this time. And so Nanny's scared for Janie. And that's where all of this kind of desperation to marry Janie off is coming from. And that's why Nanny's acting so harshly. So let's continue reading. Lord have mercy. It was a long time on that way, but I reckon it had to come. Oh, Jesus, do Jesus, I done the best I could. Finally, they both grew calm. Janie, how long you've been lowing Johnny Taylor to kiss you? Only this one time, Nanny. I don't love him at all. What made me do it is... Oh, I don't know. Thank you. I ain't going to do it no more, Nanny. Please don't make me marry Mr. Killix. Ain't Logan Killix I wants you to have, baby. It's protection. I ain't getting old, honey. I'm done old. One morning soon now, the angel with the sword is going to stop by here. The day and the hour is hid from me, but it won't be long. I asked the Lord when you was an infant in my arms to let me stay here till you got grown. He's done spared me to see the day. My daily prayer now is to let these golden moments roll on a few days longer till I see you safe in life. Let me wait, Nanny, please, just a little bit more. Don't think I don't feel with you, Janie, 'cause I do. I couldn't love you no more if I had felt your birth pains myself. Fact of the matter, I loved you a whole heap more than I loved your mama, the one I did birth. But you gotta take into consideration you ain't no everyday child like most of them. You ain't got no papa. You might as well say no mama, for the good she's done you. You ain't got nobody but me, and my head is old and tilted towards the grave. Neither can you stand alone by yourself. The thought of you being kicked around from pillar to post is hurtin' things. Every tear you drop squeezes a cup of blood out of my heart. I gotta try and do for you before my head is cold. A sobbing sigh burst out of Janie. The old woman answered her with little soothing pats on the hand. You know, honey, us colored folks is branches without roots, and that makes things come around in queer ways. You in particular. I was born back doing slavery, so it wasn't for me to fulfill my dreams of what a woman ought to be and ought to do. That's one of the holdbacks of slavery. But nothing can't stop you from wishing. You can't beat nobody down so low till you can rob them of their will. And I didn't want to be used for a work ox and a brood sow, and I didn't want my daughter used like that either. It sure wasn't my will for things to happen like they did. I even hated the way you were born. But all the same, I said, thank God, I got another chance. I wanted to preach a great sermon about colored women sitting on high, but they wasn't. Let's pause right there. So let's look at the continuation of the tree symbol. So Nanny says that Black people are branches with no roots. And essentially she says that the Black community are people with no home. So in this period of time, people like Nanny have lived through slavery. And because of that, they don't have homes, money, professions in which they're able to provide for themselves and their family the ways that they want. But Janie, the next generation, Nanny has great hope for because they can access these things. And she believes that Janie can have everything that she wants. She can have roots if we're going to continue with the symbol. And so Nanny's trying to explain why she wants Janie to marry a man who can take care of her so that Janie can have all the things that she wants and have children that continue to grow roots deeper and deeper, where they don't feel lost in the world. So let's see what else Nanny has to say. Freedom found me with a baby daughter in my arms, so I said I'd take a broom and a cook pot and throw up a highway through the wilderness for her. She would expound what I felt, but somehow she got lost off the highway, and next thing I knowed, here you was in the world. So whilst I was tending you of nights, and I said I'd save the text for you, I've been waiting a long time, Janie. But nothing I've been through ain't too much if you just take a stand on the high ground like I dreamed. Old Nanny sat there rocking Janie like an infant and thinking back and back. Mind pictures brought feelings, and feelings dragged out dramas from the hollows of her heart. That morning on the big plantation close to Savannah, a rider come in a gallop telling about Sherman taking Atlanta. Mars Roberts' son had done been killed in the Chickamauga, so he grabbed his gun and straddled his best hearse and went off with the rest of the gray-headed men and young boys to drive the Yankees back into Tennessee. They was all cheering and crying and shouting for the men that was riding off. I couldn't see nothing 'cause your mama wasn't but a week old, and I was flat on my back. But pretty soon he let on he forgot something, and run into my cabin and made me let down my hair for the last time. He sort of wrapped his hand in it, pulled my big toe like he's always done, and was gone after the rest like lightning. I heard him give one last whoop for him, then the big house and the quarters got sober and silent. It was cool of the evening when Mrs. come walking in my door. She threw the door wide open and stood there looking at me out of her eyes and her face. Looked like she'd been living through 100 years in January without one day of spring. She come over me in my bed. "Nanny, I come to see that baby of yourn." I tried not to feel the breeze off her face, but it got so cold in there that I was freezing to death under the covers. So I couldn't move right away like I aimed to, but I knowed I had to make haste and do it. "You better get that cover off your young'un that quick," she clashed at me. "You look like you don't know who your missus is on this plantation, madam, and I aims to show you." By that time I had done managed to uncover my baby enough for her to see the head and face. "What's your baby doing with gray eyes and yeller hair?" She begun to slap my jaws every which way. I never felt the first one 'cause I was too busy getting the covers up back over my child. But them last licks burnt me like fire. I had too many feelings to tell which one to follow, so I didn't cry, and I didn't do nothing else. But then she kept on asking me how come my baby looked white. She asked me that maybe 25 or 30 times, like she got to saying that and couldn't help herself. So I told her I didn't know nothing but what I'm told to do, 'cause I ain't nothing but a slave. Instead of pacifying her like I thought, looked like she got madder. But I reckoned she was tired and wore out, 'cause she didn't hit me no more. She went to the foot of the bed and wiped her hands on her handkerchief. "I wouldn't dirty my hands on you, but the first thing in the morning, the overseer will take you to the whipping post and tie you down on your knees and cut your hide off yaller back. 100 lashes, with a rawhide on your bare back. I'll have you whipped till the blood runs down your heels. I mean the count the licks myself. And if it kills you, I'll stand to the loss. Anyhow, as soon as that brat is a month old, I'm going to sell her off this place." She flounced on off and let her winter time with me. I knowed my body wasn't healed, but I couldn't consider that. In the black dark, I wrapped my baby best I could, best I knowed how, and made it to the swamp by the river. I knowed the place was full of moccasins and other bitten snakes, but I was more scared of what was behind me. I hide in there day and night and suckled the baby every time she started to cry for fear somebody might hear her and I'd get found. I ain't saying a friend or two didn't feel my care. And then the good Lord seen it that I wasn't taken. And don't see how come my milk didn't kill my child with me so scared and worried all the time. The noise of the owls scared me. The limbs of them cypress trees looked to crawling and moving around after dark. And 2 and 3 times I heard panthers prowling round. But nothing never hurt me 'cause the Lord knowed how I was. Then one night I heard the big guns booming like thunder. It kept up all night long, and the next morning I could see us big ships at the distance and a great stirring around. So I wrapped Leafy up in moss and fixed her good in a tree and picked my way down to the landing. The men was all in blue, and I heard people say Sherman was coming to meet the boats in Savannah, and all of us slaves was free. So I run got my baby and got in quotient with people and found a place I could stay. But it was a long time before that big surrender at Richmond. Then the big bell rang in Atlanta, and all the men in gray uniforms had to go to Moultrie and bury their swords in the ground and show they was never to fight about slavery no more. So then we knew we were free. So this was a lot, but Nanny has shared a really important story. So Nanny shares about her past life in slavery. And so she explains, her story starts near the end of the Civil War, right when her daughter's 1 week old. And the men who live on the plantation, they are called off to fight in the Civil War because the North is winning. But before the men who are fighting for the South leave, the owner of the plantation rapes Nanny they describe as the last time. So it's implied that he has raped her many times before. And it also implies that Nanny's daughter, who's called Leafy, this is Janie's mother, is also the plantation owner's daughter. And so that's why the plantation owner's wife shows up, looks at the baby, and threatens to have Nanny whipped 100 times, which would likely kill her because the plantation owner's wife realizes because Leafy has yellow hair and gray eyes that her husband has slept with Nanny or raped Nanny. And so Nanny flees with her daughter to save both of their lives. And while she's hiding, she witnesses